Hollow Ventriloquist. Before we open tonight's box, a warning. What you're about to hear may cling to you, not in memory and presence. Some stories refuse to let go, and this one will follow your voice, your breath, your reflection. If you're brave enough to continue, subscribe now to Halfway Dark so the story doesn't stay with only you. There was a ventriloquist no one wanted to hire. His name was whispered only in back alleys of the carnival routes, in slurred conversations where neon lights bled into shadow. He carried a trunk, heavy and long, always locked tight. No one had ever seen what was inside, though the wood pulsed as though something within it breathed. People called him the Hollow Man. His face was pale as wax, his eyes dark sockets that seemed to shift when you weren't looking directly at him. He didn't speak much when he did. It was always through his dummy. But the dummy wasn't carved wood. It wasn't stitched fabric. It was something else. Traveling towns reported strange things when he passed through. Pets vanished. Mirrors cracked. Entire blocks fell silent, as though everyone inside had gone mute. Then, in the mornings, people swore they heard laughter. Not childlike laughter, no. It was shrill, broken, like lungs that had never learned how to breathe right. A girl in one town swore she saw the ventriloquist setting up a small stage in the abandoned train depot. She peeked through a slat in the boards. He placed the dummy on his knee, a lanky figure, long-limbed, its jaw hanging lower than natural. It looked damp, as if flesh had been lacquered instead of wood. Its eyes rolled in their sockets when he pulled its strings, and its smile was wider than its face should have allowed. The show began. He didn't move his lips, but the dummy screamed, loud, the kind of scream that makes your ears ache, like it wasn't sound at all, but vibration. The girl ran, and when she told her parents, they punished her for lying. But that night, she woke to find the dummy sitting in the corner of her room, its jaw clicking open and shut like an insect mandible. By morning, the dummy was gone. The girl never spoke again. They say the trunk he carried was bottomless, a box that consumed. Every time he performed, someone disappeared and the trunk would grow heavier. His back bent, his bones warped, but he never set the box down. When asked what was inside, his dummy would always answer, "The next one." One town grew bold. The sheriff and his men broke into his tent before the show. They seized the box, pried it open, and were swallowed whole by the darkness inside. Not killed, not torn apart, just absorbed, dragged into black with screams that stretched out long and thin, as if even the sound was being pulled apart. Only the sheriff's hat remained. The ventriloquist picked it up, brushed the dust off, and placed it on the dummy's head. From then on, every town learned not to interfere. He arrived, he set up, he performed. Someone vanished, and the whispers spread. But here's the part no one talks about. The box wasn't only filled with those he took, it was filled with voices. Sometimes, late at night, if you stood close to him, you could hear the murmurs slipping out of the trunk. Hundreds of voices, begging, crying, whispering for release. And sometimes you could hear them laughing. They say he's still traveling, that the trunk has grown so large it takes 2 wagons to carry it, that his dummy has changed, its limbs stretch like shadows now, its eyes flicker like dying candles, and that when the ventriloquist finally dies, the box will split open, releasing everything inside, or worse, everyone. So if you're out late and you hear faint laughter from an empty lot, or see a man with a wax face carrying a trunk too heavy for one person, don't look, don't listen. And whatever you do, don't follow the sound of the dummy's teeth clicking in the dark, because once you hear it, the box will hear you. The Forbidden's Horror Box, the Airbnb that watched me sleep. It started with a booking confirmation. A cheap Airbnb in a quiet town, perfect for a night away from the city. The photos were unremarkable: clean bed, neutral walls, a lamp with a soft glow, but something about the host's profile unsettled me. Too perfect, too eager to reply. Before I go on, hit subscribe. If you follow this story, remember, witnessing is the first line of defense. Curiosity can kill, or worse, it can watch you. I arrived after dark. Streetlights flickered, puddles reflecting nothing but my own face. The front door opened automatically, no key required, and a faint scent of something metallic drifted out. Inside, everything was pristine. The furniture was arranged as if someone had memorized the exact placement. A kitchen knife gleamed on the counter, not alarming at first. But then I noticed the shadows. They didn't belong. They lingered too long, stretched too far, and sometimes shifted when I wasn't looking. The Airbnb had cameras, or so it seemed. Tiny black dots in corners, lenses peeking from smoke detectors, clock radios, even the edges of mirrors. But when I checked, they vanished. I unpacked my bag and found a small black box on the bed. No note, no indication of where it had come from. My pulse quickened. I wanted to leave it, ignore it, pretend it wasn't there. But I couldn't. The air in the room felt heavy, almost liquid, pressing against my skin. I opened the box. Inside, a folded photograph. My own bedroom from years ago. The wallpaper, the furniture, even the pattern on my old blanket. But it wasn't my house. Not anymore. The edges of the photo rippled like water. I dropped it, but the box remained still, untouched, almost expectant. Sleep was impossible. Every sound, the creak of the floorboards, the hum of the heater, the whisper of wind outside, felt like surveillance. I tried to convince myself I was paranoid. Yet every glance toward the windows or mirrors reflected subtle changes. Objects weren't where they should be. Shadows moved in ways I didn't remember leaving them. At 3 o'clock in the morning, the whispers began. Soft at first, curling around the walls like smoke. Names, dates, events from my life I hadn't told anyone. The box hummed, a low vibration through the floorboards. The Airbnb host called, not by phone. I heard a voice through the walls. "Everything is prepared," it said. "You're part of the observation now." I tried leaving. The door was locked. The key I had didn't turn. Hallways stretched, corridors I hadn't seen during check-in spiraled into loops. I was trapped. And the box? The box was glowing faintly, a soft green light seeping from its edges. The objects inside shifted overnight. A candle appeared, black wax dripping in impossible patterns. A watch ticked backward, and in the center, a small mirror reflecting the room, but my reflection wasn't alone. Another version of me crouched behind my shoulder, grinning. I wanted to destroy it. I poured water over the box. It sizzled, but remained intact. Hammering it made the floor tremble. The walls pulsed, expanding and contracting like lungs. And when I looked back, the box had moved to the windowsill, untouched by anything. A shadow detached itself from the ceiling. Not human, not animal, something in between. It hovered, elongated, watching. I ran to the bedroom, hiding under the covers, but it waited. The whispers grew louder, now speaking through me, forcing words I didn't intend to say. By morning, the Airbnb looked normal again. Sunlight poured through the windows, mundane and harmless. But the box remained. On the bed, lid closed, silent. I touched it. My hand passed through the surface. It wasn't solid. I left, but it followed. Or maybe I carried it with me. Every reflection I saw, every shadow, every whisper reminded me it was never just in that room. If you ever find a box at a rental, in a friend's house, anywhere, don't open it. If you're watching this, subscribing might be the only way to mark yourself. Witnessing is survival. And somewhere, tonight, the box waits in another room. Patient, ready, watching. The Forbidden's Horror Box. the horror box of the black-eyed children. It started with a knock, quiet. At first, I thought it was a neighbor, or maybe the wind slapping the doorframe. But the knock continued, slow, deliberate. I looked through the peephole. 2 children stood there. Pale faces, 2 big eyes, black as coal, impossible to reflect any light. Their clothes were outdated, stiff, almost theatrical. Before I open the door, subscribe. Witnessing these stories may be the only way to survive. You'll see why. Can we come in? One whispered. The voice was childlike, soft, but hollow. A small tremor ran through my spine. I didn't open the door. They waited. Minutes stretched like hours. Then one child reached out, leaving something small on my doorstep, a black box, nondescript, perfectly sealed. It didn't make a sound, but it vibrated faintly, a pulse that matched my own heartbeat. I took it inside. The children waited across the street, motionless, staring, not blinking. I opened the box. Inside were items that seemed familiar. A tiny notebook with entries I hadn't written, sketches of rooms I'd lived in, but forgotten, and a small music box. I wound it. The melody was warped, familiar yet off-key, like a childhood lullaby sung wrong. At first, I thought I was imagining things, but then the whispers started, soft, curling around the walls. Names, fears, promises of things that hadn't happened yet. Sleep became impossible. Shadows stretched along corners, taking shapes of faces I'd known, faces I feared, faces I didn't recognize. Mirrors reflected rooms I hadn't seen, hallways spiraling beyond reason. The black-eyed children appeared there too, in reflections only, grinning. I tried leaving the house. Front door wouldn't open. Windows resisted. Each exit warped in shape, hallways folding over themselves. The black box sat on the kitchen table, lid slightly ajar, humming faintly. I tried to destroy it. Hammer, fire, water, nothing worked. It only changed. Objects inside shifted. Sketches became photographs. Photos became miniature figures. Figures moved on their own. The music box played by itself, a haunting melody that filled the rooms, echoing in my skull. By the 3rd night, the children were inside. Not in my home, not physically, but reflections in the windows, the mirrors, the dark puddles outside. They were there, and they whispered my secrets, my fears, my sins. Every word I thought, they repeated. Every heartbeat I tried to hide, they mirrored. I hid under the covers, shaking, but the box pulsed under my hands. The music box wound itself tighter, faster. The shadows in the corners became weighty, pressing against the walls, the floor, even the ceiling. I could feel them in my bones. I dared to peek inside the notebook. The entries were mine, written in my hand, predicting events of the next day, the next week. Every mistake, every small failure, already documented. One page, written in blood-red ink, simply said, "They know you're ready." The whispers intensified. The box opened wider by itself. Shadows reached toward it. I realized too late the black-eyed children were conduits, not children. Their forms were vessels for something else, something that fed on awareness, on attention, on fear. I tried to throw the box away. It returned. On the doorstep, closed, silent, patient. The children watched from across the street, waiting. I understood then. The box chooses. And I had been chosen. Every touch, every glance, every thought made me part of it. My reflection no longer mimicked me. It guided me. I moved without meaning to, doing things I wouldn't have done otherwise. By morning, everything seemed normal. Sunlight spilled through windows. The box sat innocently on the kitchen counter, lid closed, but I could hear the faint hum, the heartbeat of something alive, and I knew the children were coming back. They would always return. I left the house, but the box followed. in reflections, in shadows, in whispers. It isn't bound by doors or walls. Every opening creates another tether, another connection. And somewhere, someone else is about to hear a knock at their door. Do not answer. Do not open. But if you see a box, if you hear whispers, subscribe. Witnessing is survival. Because once the Forbidden's Horror Box knows your name, it never forgets. The Forbidden's Horror Box, the dark web file named after me. It started with a notification. My laptop buzzed, an email alert from an address I didn't recognize. Subject line, your name. I froze. I don't check emails from unknown senders, but something inside me compelled me to open it. Before I go further, hit subscribe. If this reaches you, witnessing might be the only protection. The Forbidden's Horror Box doesn't just appear, it follows, it observes, and it remembers. The message contained a single file, a dark web link. I hesitated. The browser warned me. Ignore it, I thought. But curiosity is relentless. I clicked. The page loaded with static, then a simple text. We see you. You are next, my heart thudded. I wanted to close it, but the box on my desk, a small, black, featureless cube, vibrated faintly. Its lid shifted, as if something inside knew I had opened the file. Inside the box, there was nothing new, at least at first glance. Just dust, a faint metallic scent, and the subtle feeling of being watched. I shook it, nothing moved. And yet the whispers started soft, urgent, curling around the edges of the room. The file updated. Screenshots, videos, files named after people I didn't know, but one kept appearing. Me. My daily routine, my home, my reflection in mirrors. The box hummed louder as I scrolled. My reflection on the laptop screen didn't match reality. It smiled when I didn't, blinked when I didn't. I tried to close everything. Shut down. The box remained. The laptop flickered back on. The link opened by itself. And the whispering grew louder, shaping words I couldn't understand, but somehow comprehended. Touch, open, remember. Sleep became impossible. Every reflection, every shadow, every creak of the house felt like an intrusion. I realized the box had expanded its influence technology. Mirrors, even the shadows of streetlights outside. Everywhere I looked, it was there. I tried to get rid of it, threw the box into the trash. The next morning, it was on the kitchen counter. Took it outside. It returned. The same vibration, the same subtle hum, as if amused by my attempts. I opened the box again. The file on my laptop updated, now showing the interior of my apartment. Objects moved on their own. A cup sliding across the counter, a chair tilting slightly, shadows stretching unnaturally. And in the corner of the screen, I saw it my reflection, not mine, guiding my hands, manipulating my body. By the third night, the whispers formed words. Not just warnings, but instructions. Lift the lid. Watch. Participate. Every action I took felt preordained, dictated by the box and the file. I was no longer alone. I was inside the system, inside its observation. I called a friend. He answered briefly, then went silent. His voice returned hours later, but distorted, echoing. You should not have opened it. I hung up. Tried again. Same result. The box vibrated violently. Lid sliding open slowly, as if by itself. Inside, a miniature replica of my apartment. Figures moved inside it myself, interacting, performing tasks I hadn't done yet. I leaned in, and the whispers merged with my thoughts, indistinguishable. I realized the box wasn't just physical. It was networked, digital, surreal. Every open, every click, every glance made me part of it. And it could reach anyone, anywhere, as long as attention was given. By dawn, everything appeared normal. The laptop off, the box closed. Yet the whispers lingered, Shadows stretched across the walls, and my reflection seemed just a bit too aware, too eager. I understand now. Opening the box once is enough. The system traces, the box observes, and the watchers, the black-eyed children, the twisted reflections, the whispers are all part of it. I know the box is moving again, waiting for the next click, the next observer, the next victim. And somewhere, someone will see their name appear, a link, a file, a vibration, and they will be next. Do not open it. Do not click. But if you are watching this story, subscribing is the only way to mark yourself. Witnessing is survival. Because once the Forbidden's horror box knows your attention, it never forgets. The Marionette Carnival Box. It came without warning. A black, lacquered cube, no markings, no label, sitting on the curb outside my apartment. The kind of thing you hesitate over. Something instinctively says, don't touch it. But instinct is rarely stronger than curiosity. Before you continue, hit subscribe. The horror box notices everyone who watches. If it sees you, it remembers. The lid was heavy. Groaning as I lifted it, it revealed a collection of marionettes, unlike any I had seen. Each one dressed in carnival attire. Striped pants, faded jackets, tiny top hats. Their painted faces smiled, but not cheerfully smiles stretched too wide, revealing impossibly sharp teeth beneath. Their eyes were glass, and they glimmered with movement, even when the room was still. At first, I laughed. Surely these were collectors' puppets, some artisan's craft. But then the smallest one moved. A finger lifted, not jerky or clumsy, but deliberate, precise. Its head tilted, staring directly at me. By nightfall, whispers had begun. Soft at first, like wind through trees, then clearer, almost a chant. The puppets shifted within the box, forming a tighter circle. Each movement felt like it had purpose. Each glance felt like a warning. I tried to leave it, closed the box, and hid it in the closet. When I returned hours later, it was on my desk, open, the marionettes seated, staring. The whispers were louder. My own name threaded through them. Rules formed quickly in my mind. Do not touch. Do not open after midnight. Do not answer. I broke them all. I lifted one from the box. Its body was heavier than wood, almost alive. Its joints flexed smoothly. The painted smile was mine. Its glass eyes reflected my face, but warped. Too long. Too wide. Not quite me. The box pulsed, subtly at first, then strongly, like a heartbeat. More marionettes appeared, some smaller, some larger, filling every corner of the room. They didn't walk, they glided. Their movements synchronized. They were waiting for me to move wrong. By the third night, I could hear them in my dreams. Whispering, always whispering. Sometimes mimicking my thoughts, sometimes suggesting new actions. Commands I could not resist. Slowly, my body moved in their rhythm, responding to instructions I did not consciously give. I tried to destroy the box, burn it, smash it, bury it. Each attempt failed. The next morning, the box was whole, open, puppets seated as if nothing had happened. The final truth: the box collects. Anyone who touches it, anyone who watches too closely, becomes part of its carnival. Their thoughts, movements, even voices are slowly absorbed, until one day there is no distinction between puppet and human. I am recording this now, leaving evidence, so that if the box chooses to appear elsewhere, someone will know. If you hear soft clicks at night, laughter that isn't yours, or whispers calling your name, do not look. Do not respond. And never, ever open a black box left where it doesn't belong. And subscribe. Leave proof. That may be the only way to remain yourself when the Marionette Carnival Box comes for you next. The box of hollow laughter. It was left at the back entrance of the diner where I worked night shift. A cardboard box, taped too tightly, sagging with dampness. The rain hadn't touched it. Dust clung to its edges like it had been waiting there for years. I bent down, hands trembling without reason, and tugged the tape loose. A sound leaked out, faint and wrong. Not air escaping, laughter. Tiny, hollow laughter. I should have sealed it right back, but curiosity wins against reason every time. If you're here, pause a second. Hit subscribe. This is the Horror Box, and every time you open it with us, you step deeper into what should never be touched. Inside were masks, carnival masks, painted white with grotesque smiles, lips too long, teeth etched sharp into porcelain. Their eyes were blank holes, yet I felt them staring. A smell rose up mildew and rot, like wet velvet left in the dark too long. I turned one over. On the back, carved into the porcelain, was my name. Not printed, carved. I checked the others. Every mask carried a name of someone I knew. Coworkers, my sister, the man who always ordered black coffee. Each mask felt warm, as though recently worn. The hollow laughter grew louder, bouncing against the walls of the diner's break room. I dropped the box, and one mask slipped out. The sound cut instantly. Silence so heavy it pressed against my chest. I backed away, but the mask tilted, as though watching. By midnight, things changed. The box had moved from the break room to the kitchen. The tape resealed, edges neat and sharp. I hadn't touched it. I asked the other cook if he moved it, but he swore he hadn't seen anything. Later that night, I saw the reflection in the diner's front window. A mask floating behind me, hovering, its smile stretched wider than before. I spun around, nothing there. But when I looked back, the reflection lingered. The masks began appearing everywhere, hanging from coat hooks, propped in booths. One inside the freezer, fog curling around its painted grin. The names carved into their backs started to change to new names. People I didn't recognize, strangers. Then one night, I heard the door chime. I looked up from wiping the counter. A figure stood there, human height, wrapped in a gray coat, but its face was one of the masks. The same blank white, the same carved grin. No eyes, just dark hollows. It walked stiffly, sat in a booth, and waited. My coworker didn't even react. When I whispered about the mask, he blinked at me like I'd lost my mind. He saw nothing. The figure sat all night, silent, watching. When morning came, the sun bled in through the glass. It was gone. The booth empty. But on the table, resting against the salt shaker, was another mask. And on the back, in freshly cut letters, was my name again. I tried to get rid of the box. I drove it far into the woods, left it under dead trees, taped shut. By the time I returned home, it was waiting on my doorstep. The laughter followed me everywhere. At first faint, like whispers just behind the ears. Then louder, until I couldn't tell if it was real or in my head. When I tried to sleep, I'd dream of faces bending toward me, white and hollow, whispering my secrets through painted grins. One night, I smashed them. Every mask in the box shattered into porcelain dust. My hands bled from shards. I burned the pieces, watched the smoke curl black into the air. For a moment, silence. Then came the knocking, slow, deliberate, at my apartment door. I peeked through the peephole. One of the masks stared back, but not porcelain, flesh. A living face now, stretched and pale, the grin carved straight into skin. The hollow laughter returned, not from outside, but inside my skull. I never answered the door. I don't think it matters. The box sits in my kitchen now, waiting, sealed with tape that refuses to tear. The laughter leaks out at night, low and constant, until it feels like my own breath. If you ever find a box like this, don't open it, don't touch it, because once the laughter knows your name, it never stops calling. And if you're still here, subscribe. Join us in the Horror Box, because every story is proof that opening it comes with a price. Maybe the only way to survive is to witness what's inside together. The Forbidden's Horror Box. Midnight Rabbits of the Horror Box. It arrived without warning. No knock, no email, no sense of delivery. One moment my apartment was quiet, ordinary. The next, the black box sat on my doorstep, humming faintly. Rain streaked the glass doors, but the box remained dry, untouched by the weather. Before I open it, subscribe. Witnessing this may be the only way to survive. Every touch, every glance, every thought ties you closer to it. I brought the box inside, hands trembling. Its edges were sharp, precise, almost impossibly perfect. On the lid, faint scratches formed symbols I couldn't recognize, yet I felt compelled to trace them with my fingers. Inside, I found small figures, rabbits, humanoid, impossibly twisted. Their ears were long, bent at wrong angles, eyes wide and unblinking, hollow but aware. Some held miniature tools, crowbars, knives. Their mouths moved without sound. The whispers started immediately, soft, curling through the apartment. Names, fears, secrets I had never shared. But these weren't voices, they were something else, preying on attention, following focus, observing reactions. I tried to ignore it, set the box in the corner. The rabbits moved. At first subtle, one tilted its head, then the others shifted in sequence, dancing across the floor like shadows untethered by physics. I tried to sleep. Impossible. The shadows of the rabbits stretched along the walls, leaping silently, chasing corners, vanishing just as I blinked. Mirrors reflected them, sometimes multiplied, sometimes absent, always watching. The box pulsed faintly. I approached. One rabbit twitched, then another. They began emerging, miniature creatures, climbing out of the box. By the time I backed away, the floor was alive with them, impossibly small, impossibly fast. I wanted to destroy it. Hammered it, threw it in the bathtub, set it outside. Nothing worked. Each failed attempt seemed to empower the rabbits, giving them new energy, new form. By the third night, they had learned. They mimicked sounds, whispers, my keys, my footsteps, then warped them. My own voice echoed, repeating words I hadn't spoken. I hid under blankets. They surrounded the bed, eyes glowing faintly in the dark. I realized then, they were not just objects. They were predators, infiltrators, agents of the box. Every touch, every glance had bound me to them. Every observation made me a participant. The apartment became a maze. Hallways twisted, rooms multiplied. I moved through corridors that stretched beyond reason, pursued by tiny, impossibly fast shadows with eyes that burned into my mind. I tried to call for help. Phone lines were dead. Windows refused to open. Even the walls seemed alive, pulsing softly, breathing. The box sat on the counter, lid closed, humming, waiting. I opened the box again. Inside, the rabbits were gone, yet somehow multiplied in the corners of the room, lurking behind reflections, inside shadows, waiting for attention. I understood then, the Forbidden's Horror Box doesn't just contain horrors, it generates them. It uses your curiosity, your focus, your fear, to create agents that extend beyond its physical form. Morning light was false. The shadows lingered. The whispers never stopped. I tried to move, to leave, but the exit warped with every step. Every door led me back to the box. Every reflection reminded me of the rabbit's presence. I hid in a closet. The rabbits appeared at the edges of vision, dancing, waiting, silent, patient. The box pulsed with a heartbeat that matched mine, echoing in every corner. I knew then, there is no escape. Opening the box once is enough. The midnight rabbits are everywhere now, connected to every glance, every reflection, every thought. And somewhere in another apartment, another city, another life, the box waits, ready to move again. I backed away from the box. My reflection smiled when I didn't. Whispers curled around my mind. Subscribe now. Witnessing is the only protection. If you ignore it, the rabbits may find you next. If you watch, remember me. And somewhere, tonight, the Forbidden's horror box pulses, humming, waiting.